This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by
workfast.com. There's always some new idea in liberty that seems to outshine the ones that came before it. In my own experience, here's how the progression worked. First, there was the idea of moving to New Hampshire and concentrating liberty activists in one place. So for me, the idea of just getting a Penske and driving out to New Hampshire, well, I thought that was the pinnacle of activism. But in reality, it was just a ridge line on the way to the next peak. Once I was there, I experimented with demonstrations. I'd go anywhere with a sign. Then I tried silent demonstrations. Those worked better. You just go into the office of a bureaucrat by yourself and stand there with a sign until forced to leave. Maybe you write an article about it afterwards. It would have to be a bureaucrat who had recently committed some outrage. I deal it. I discovered letters to the editor. Anything to spread the message of liberty, or to get the bureaucrats talking about us. Each idea, each technique seemed to be more effective than the one before it, and thus ate the one that happened before it. The latest one for me, of course, was doing videos for YouTube, the Ridley Report, which goes back to 2007. That pretty much ate all my other activism. Lately, another idea hit me that I think might be even more powerful than all these YouTube videos. I call it the Grand Alliance concept. And I got the idea from listening to Free Talk Live the other night. Basically, there were a lot of sort of bigoted calls coming in, talking trash about immigrants, undocumented particularly. Seems like they really are becoming the new scapegoat for everything that's wrong in America, when in fact I would guess they're probably less guilty than most for the direction things have taken. Some of these comments, if you substituted the word Jew for immigrant, you'd have a comment that would just be considered abhorrent by 99% of Americans. But for some reason, when you're talking about immigrants who didn't fill out their paperwork perfectly, you can say almost any bad thing you want. Anyway, what I thought was, maybe liberty activists in New Hampshire should be reaching out more to the immigrant communities and other persecuted groups that we don't normally associate with that much. Form a grand alliance. If they come for you, we raise heck, politically or with protests or whatever. And if they come for us, you guys raise heck, politically, whatnot, protests. That would be the tacit deal between, say, New Hampshire liberty activists and immigrant groups or American Indians or whatever minority, ethnic minority or ideological minority you want to be talking about that doesn't hurt people by nature. There are probably dangers in this idea, but there are dangers in doing nothing and dangers in all ideas. But I know that as things stand right now, suppose there were a big ICE raid in Manchester. Well, I think ICE raid, by the way, would be like immigration raid, you know, where they round up people and don't treat them too well, try to send them to Mexico or wherever. If something like that happened tomorrow, yeah, we might read about it in the papers, and maybe one or two of us or more would do some small thing about it. But to a large extent, the immigrants would be on their own. They are somewhat organized, and they're more present in New Hampshire than you'd think. But there's really not much interaction between them and us. Most of them would face the event in the days afterward, probably not even knowing that we exist. And likewise, if something happens to us, they just aren't involved. They might not even hear about it. I use immigrants as the example because I guess just to make it simple, but this could apply, like I said, with many other minority groups. How would this come about? I don't know. and I'm not sure it's something I would want to spearhead. Organizing is not really what I do, and I'm afraid I'd be starting something that I couldn't sustain, might become dependent on me personally, kind of like the Perot campaign was, dependent on the little general. It's a big enough deal just having the Ridley Report dependent on me, and I don't see throwing that away for this other project. But if you like this idea and you want to spearhead something, I would probably be available to help intermittently in a support role. In a way, I kind of like the fact that I haven't really been able to think this all the way through, because that kind of keeps the idea simple enough for someone else to grab onto and move forward with, without me having to pass on a bunch of knowledge or ideas. Probably what will happen with this concept is the same thing that happens with most new ideas. It sits there for a while. Its time does not come immediately. But it would be nice. It would be nice if this didn't sit too long. If you want to discuss this, shoot me a private message here on YouTube or email me through RidleyReport.com, and maybe we can get something started. But like I said, I don't want it to become dependent on me, whatever it is. I have done enough thinking about it, though, to be able to articulate what the first step would probably need to be. Some of these other groups have official leaders to a greater extent than we do, and they're maybe a little bit more top-down, and that could be an advantage in reaching out to them. For instance, you could contact a local Abernathy chief, or you could, there's an office in Manchester that organizes immigrant activism. You could contact them. Just liaise a little bit and let things move from there. Like I said, you'd probably have me to rely on a bit in this process. That is all. TTL.
Porcupine Fest is just around the corner, and the folks at porkfest.com have a message for you. Get your lodging in order before campsites and hotel rooms sell out. Get your tickets, get your seats on the Liberty Tour buses, soon to roam the state. And if you've got a message or product, grab a vendor table and get it sold. I'll be there and hope you will too.